All right. So I'm hoping for no mutiny this time. Let's take just half an hour or so to talk about coding. We've heard, I've seen that there's sort of various levels of comfort with the different technologies. How many people here would say you're pretty familiar with coding technology? You understand coding pens reasonably well? Okay, about a third. So you'll correct me when I'm wrong, right? So we're down at the coding end of things. Coding really, and I'm going to try to simplify the slides a little bit. It really combines several technologies that you probably understand pretty well. First of all, why code? We've talked about this already, right? It can make a tablet easier to swallow. It can cover an obnoxious taste. It can make make it more stable for identification, modify the release, reduce the amount of dust. There's a whole series of reasons why we coat tablets. It obviously, okay, sorry, gather my thoughts. Tablet coating needs to be consistent, needs to be reliable to give us the results that we want. Now, early coatings, we talked about before, right, that sugar is one of the first things that we ever used for tablet coating, still used in making candy, and this was about making the tablet more palatable. And probably coating uniformity was less of a concern. It was certainly less well developed. Now we do film coatings, we do thinner films. The thickness of the coating, especially if you're counting on the coating for a particular activity, such as enteric coatings we've talked about, now the thickness of the coating can become a critical parameter. Oh, so yeah, so sugar coating. And I think we've all had candies. Obviously, M&Ms are the obvious one. But sugar coatings, part of the reason they tend to be thick is because you do need to build up this crystalline layer to give it some strength of its own. So typically up to 25% of tablet weight, which is a huge amount of coating. Today, we're doing film coatings, using polymers and developing much thinner coatings that are effective in the way that we want. So, coating. If you haven't thought about it before, we're not dipping the tablets, right? We're coating them. What we're doing is we're having a series of droplets impinge on them. The droplets start to wet the outside of the tablet, they flow together, and eventually we build up a coating thickness. We may build up multiple layers with multiple utility. So I may have, again, you're doing a static coat, so you may have only 1 or 2 layers of coating. In active coat, we may have, as I said before, a stabilizing layer, an active layer, a top, and a series of top coat layers. So 5 stages: sealing, subcoating, smoothing, coloring, and polish. Beautiful tablets. Sugar coating. As I mentioned on our tour the other day, when Bristol Myers and Squibb first merged and they were making Theragran, they had coating pans just like these guys, except they had a beautiful stainless wall in front of them, so that you couldn't actually get to the dirty end where the motors were. But aside from that, it was all open air. It was spray coated, but there was none of the input and output of air that we're going to talk about in a modern coating pan. So in film coating, we're coating the spray solution onto a bed of tablets. Again, this is a lot like a tumble dryer. Right? It's a perforated drum that we force air through from a heated supply out to a dust collector on the exhaust. And we build up the layer of the film on the tablet surface by spraying and drying very rapidly. So this outlines what I was talking about before, where we form droplets. the droplets impinge, they start to spread and wet, and finally you end up with a cohesive coating. What do we use for film coating? A series of polymers, cellulose esters, polyethylene glycols, PVP we talked about. Beware microbiological activity. So as an industry, we've moved away from some of the nastier solvents that we used to use as a mobile phase for some of these coatings. Now, if we used a solvent that was fairly bacteriostatic previously, and we've switched to an aqueous solution with a series of organics that are pretty nice for microorganisms to use as nutrition, we do have to worry about the hazards associated with that solution. How long can we hold it for? This is why often coating solutions made up fairly short periods of time prior to use, right? So we'll have a series of components, we'll make them up and then we'll use them. And we don't tend to hold coatings sitting around for long periods of time.